Good morning. I'm here in the Colville room where we have our small group Bible studies, and I sure am missing gathering with you all. I'm glad for those of you who are tuning in. And today we're moving into the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 16, the resurrection story in Mark's Gospel. So if you would please read Mark 16 verses 1 to 8 and pause the video now, and then I'll move into the questions. So question 1. Do you want to anoint and honor Jesus in his body? That's what the women went to the tomb to do. And I think in this time of turmoil, we still want to do what we can. Perhaps more than ever, we want to do what we can to anoint Jesus and lift up goodness and love and everything that Jesus stands for. Question 2a, are there any giant stones in need of rolling away in order to do so? So the women were worried about the stone. How are they going to be able to get to Jesus' body? And we all have giant stones, giant stumbling blocks, things that seem to be in the way of our honoring Jesus and lifting up the things of the kingdom as we know we ought to. But just as God rolled that stone away that morning, so he can do so for us. He can remove every single barrier to being able to serve him according to the gifts we have inside of us. Does that rolling seem impossible? Sometimes it does, because we have been formed in patterns of the fallen world, and it's very hard to get those things out of our lives. But as we keep turning back to God, he's going to keep chipping away, and he's going to break down those barriers. God is going to do so. Question 3, how are the women probably feeling about Jesus' movement after his death? I'm guessing they kind of thought this was coming to an end. Their rabbi, their leader, was no longer with them. How could they carry on? Everything that they had hoped for seemed to have been smashed before their eyes. Question 4. Upon news of his resurrection, how did they initially respond according to Mark's Gospel? They were terrified, amazed, afraid, and they fled. They ran away, and they didn't say anything to anyone, which is such an astonishing ending to the Gospel according to Mark, but I think it speaks powerfully to our situation today. Question 6, where did the young man tell the women to go to? He told them to go back to Galilee, where everything started, and that's where Mark is telling us to go now, to the beginning of his gospel, and that's where we're going to be heading tomorrow morning. I skipped question 5. Do you feel like something very big is happening in our nation? There's death all around us, and God has something very big ahead. That's the news of this story, and it's so scary and so fearful and amazing, and we're not sure what it is that we need to do. But God is sending us back to Galilee and to our roots. You will note that Jesus' ministry began in Galilee in Mark 1, following his baptism in the countryside around Jerusalem. What does that suggest for us? I already said we need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to the beginning of everything. We need to go back to Jesus and the Gospels and be able to see Jesus anew. Following his resurrection. We readers of the Gospels, once we have made it through a gospel and get to the resurrection of Jesus, then we can go back and see things anew. So let's do so. That's where we're heading tomorrow. I also have a good word for you and for others who might not be studying the Gospels. And so please turn to that on the YouTube channel as well. Blessings.